My name is Carrie. Welcome to my tiny little kitchen. I have been cooking today. We are making toasted pecan lemon coconut macaroons. To begin, I have lined a small cookie sheet with aluminum foil. I have 2 cups of pecans. We're going to place the pecans in a single layer on the cookie sheet. And we have 2 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to cut that into small pieces to put on top of the pecans. Our recipe only calls for a half a cup of chopped pecans, but I always cook extra because the extra pecans are wonderful on top of salads or to snack on by themselves, even on top of ice cream or yogurt. I'm using unsalted butter, and I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of sea salt. I preheated the oven to 300 degrees so that it would be ready for the pecans to go in. Usually you want to preheat your oven at least 10 minutes before you start cooking. So now our pecans are ready to go into the oven. We will set our timer for 10 minutes. Next, we need 2 egg whites. We're going to separate the egg. We want to be careful not to get any yolk into the whites or they won't beat well. You can save the egg yolks and add them to a batter to make French toast or to homemade vanilla pudding, or even add them to the egg mixture for making an omelet. I'm going to place these egg yolks into the refrigerator. I have lemon extract. We're going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of lemon extract to our egg whites. And we're going to beat the egg whites until soft peaks form. So I'm going to beat them on high, and then I'll show you what soft peaks look like. So we've beat the egg whites to soft peaks, and now we're going to gradually add 2/3 of a cup of sugar while we're still beating the egg whites until all the sugar is added and the egg whites are stiff and stand straight up in little peaks when you remove the blender. So beating on high. Our timer just went off, so I'm going to remove the pecans from the oven. They've been cooking for just 10 minutes. I'm going to stir them. We don't want them to burn or get too brown. They already smell very good. When you roast or toast nuts, it just gives them a very nice crispness and a nice aroma. Okay, we're going to put these back into the oven for another 7 to 10 minutes. I'll keep my eye on them to make sure they don't get too dark. We'll set our timer. And we finished with our egg whites. They are a bright white, glossy, and you can see, okay. Now our egg whites are beaten into stiff peaks that stand straight up when you lift the beaters out, and the egg whites are a bright white glossy color. We're going to add 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice to our egg whites. We'll beat those in. So these are going to have a nice lemony flavor. Next, we're going to take a grater. It has a coarse grate and a fine grate. We're going to use the fine grate, and we're going to grate just the yellow part of the lemon peel very finely. We need to add 1 teaspoon of finely grated lemon peel to our macaroons. Now the timer went off, so it's time for the nuts to come out. And we'll let them cool before we chop them. And we're going to increase the oven heat to 325 degrees. You don't want to get the white part, just the lemon, the yellow part of the lemon. The white part can be a bit bitter. So I did a little bit more than 1 teaspoon just because I really like lemon. And I am making these cookies especially for my mother-in-law, Danuta, who likes pecans, likes coconut, and really likes lemon as well. So our lemon peel is in there, and we have 1 1/3 cups of flaked coconut. We'll stir those in. Our pecans have cooled down enough that we can handle them. So now I'm going to chop them. We need just a half of a cup of chopped pecans to add to our lemon and coconut macaroons. Okay, we need a little bit more. We have our half a cup of pecans. We'll stir those in. At least once a day, usually more than once a day, I disinfect the tile, and I always add bleach to my dish soap to also disinfect my dishes to make sure that there's a very high standard of cleanliness. I've lined a cookie sheet with parchment paper. You can use parchment paper if you like. I prefer it. And now I'm going to lightly grease the parchment paper with butter. So you either would grease the parchment paper or you would grease the pan directly. And now we're going to use 2 teaspoons to measure out our cookie dough, actually little meringues. These are very, very light. It's almost like taking a bite of a cloud. And so just 1 teaspoon, and then you use the other teaspoon to slide the meringue onto the cookie sheet. And when we have a full cookie sheet, we'll get these into the oven. The timer just went off, and our first tray of macaroons are ready to come out of the oven. We'll put our next tray in, and we'll set our timer for 20 more minutes. This recipe makes about 2½ dozen cookies, so just 30 cookies. If you like them a lot or want to make them for gifts for people, you might want to double the recipe. I've allowed these macaroons to cool on the cookie sheet for a little bit more than 5 minutes, and that makes them easy to remove. So now we can let them finish cooling completely on a cooling rack before we package them up. Here's how the bottom looks. Here's how the top looks. They're very light and airy on the inside and crispy on the outside. I save containers from restaurants and from the grocery store So when these cookies have finished cooling, I will put some in a container for my mother-in-law, and we're going to go visit my father-in-law and mother-in-law tomorrow afternoon for lunch, and they'll be very happy when we show up with homemade cookies. Our first tray of macaroons has cooled, and I've put some into my container for a gift. I cut a square of wax paper to put in between layers of cookies so they won't stick to each other. This is what the cookies look like. And now I'm filling up the container for my in-laws. And I have a nice tasty little treat to bring them tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Season everything you do with love.